Senator Lieberman, I want to start with you because we heard from you yesterday so eloquently at the funeral. That was the first time that we heard you speak about Senator McCain since he passed. You've chosen to stay private until yesterday. What has this week been like for you?
Well, you know, it actually reminded me of the death of people close to me, my parents. So in both those cases, my mom and dad and John, you could see their death coming. But when it comes, it hurts. So you plunge yourself into sort of remembrances and the rest, which is actually therapeutic. And looking back, and I tell you what comforted me most, John's own words. I mean, last summer after the surgery, I saw him out in Arizona at his place in the country, and he said to me, and you know, he said this publicly, but I want to repeat it. Of course, I'd like to live as long as I can, but nobody can live forever. If this is my time, I look back and I say, I've had a great life. And he said something to me that actually is an adjective one doesn't use much toward John McCain, I think was adorable. He says to me,
yeah, no, they never heard that.
He says to me, Joey, you and Lindsay and I traveled to places that billionaires can't go to. So, of course, by the nature of our relationship, I say, you're right. And some of them, nobody, including billionaires, would want to go to. But, you know, it's just so that his own attitude, the way he faced death with characteristic fearlessness and perspective, really comforted me. But you know, we're going to miss him. He's irreplaceable.
And Senator Graham, I want to ask you about a private moment that you had on the Senate floor on Friday. They cleared the chamber. You went to Senator McCain's desk with Cindy McCain, his widow. What was that moment like?
It was very touching. This is the public. This is where he spent the best years of his life in the service to his country. We all know about Vietnam, but John loved the Senate. He was a man of the Senate. He loved the institution. When you write the history of the Senate, he's going to be in the first chapter. It meant a lot to Cindy to sit in his desk.
She sat down?
Yes. I said, you will sit here. You don't get these seats by yourself. So to all the Team McCain people, his staff, his friends, his family, John couldn't have been this successful without them. And she deserved to sit in that desk. And you had Mark Salder and Rick Davis were there. And I said, listen, the reason he came back so many times, doing all the things that John did, is because he had a hell of a political team around him. And his number one cheerleader politically was Cindy McCain. People don't appreciate how much support Cindy gave him in health politically, but in sickness. For the last year, she was totally devoted to this man.
And Meghan McCain posted a photo this weekend of you. I'm sure you've both seen it. And if you can put it up, she called you, quote, my uncles forever, because certainly that is how she feels about you. I want you, again with our viewers, to listen to how Meghan McCain remembered her father yesterday at the National Cathedral.
We gather here to mourn the passing of American greatness. The real thing, not cheap rhetoric from men who will never come near the sacrifice he gave so willingly, nor the opportunistic appropriation of those who live lives of comfort and privilege while he suffered and served. The America of John McCain has no need to be made great again because America was always great.
I was in the cathedral yesterday. There was a bit of shock that she went there like she did so directly. He wasn't invited, Donald Trump. Instead, he went golfing. What's your reaction, each of you, to that clip and to the, what was it at the time, to those words?
Well, number one, she's a beautiful, talented young lady. She is her father's daughter. If you say something bad about her dad, you will know it. Whether you're the janitor or the President of the United States, she is grieving for the father she adored. And I think most Americans understand that, and I am just so proud of the young lady she has become. So I'm totally okay with everything.
Hear, hear. Well, I appreciate that she said a picture of her uncles, because I feel like her uncle, and my wife, that's what feels like her aunt. She's in New York. We get to see her some. We love her, really.
Yes.
Yesterday, I was a very proud uncle, because to say the obvious, Meghan is a daughter who had a very special, close relationship with her father, John McCain. So he's gone, he's died. She's grieving, and yet by the nature of his life, she's called on to make a very public, global statement, appearance, very hard. But she did it, and she did it magnificently, and she did it the way her dad would want her to do it. And you know what? She didn't. She was direct with the way John was, and you know sometimes those around you are even more direct than you would be in a given situation.
That's a very good point.
So God bless her.
I was at the funeral, as I mentioned yesterday. When I saw Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, I was kind of surprised. I didn't know that they were on the invite list. It turns out, Senator Graham, you were behind that?
No.
You were not behind
Nobody was at that funeral, did not get invited by the family.
Okay.
Earlier in the week, I met with Ivanka about a trip we're planning in Africa. Ivanka said some very nice things about Senator McCain after his passing. It was not unnoticed by the family. If you wanted to invite everybody that loved John McCain, you could have filled up Yankee Stadium. I'm hoping that Cindy, who has done terrific work for human trafficking of women and all things related to that issue, can work with Ivanka and others, because that's her life's work, and maybe these two can work together to help women who are in desperate straits. I think both of them would like to do that, and I'd like to help to the extent I could.
Were you happy that they were there?
I was. They happened to be sitting right behind.
I saw you speaking with them.
We talked to them. They were very positive about John McCain, and you know, I thanked them as John's friend that they had come. Absolutely. I thought it meant a lot. And they at the end, I spoke to them too, and there were no complaints. They felt that the whole service was a great tribute to him and elevating, and hopefully everybody is elevated by what happened there in the cathedral yesterday, by the whole week, and we'll take some of this forward with us, make the country better.
Senators, stay with me. We got to take a quick break. We have a lot more to discuss. Senator Lieberman, I want to ask you about something that you said yesterday at the memorial at the National Cathedral. You talked about the fact that John McCain had wanted you to be his running mate in 2008. The person he did choose, Sarah Palin, was not invited. What do you make of that?
You know, I'm just respectful of every decision that was made. I don't think anything about it. I told that story because it says a lot about John.
Sure.
That he was actually at a point, I mean, to prove his bona fides as somebody who was really believed in bipartisanship and the particular need for bipartisanship now in our government, that he even thought about me seriously, which, as I said yesterday, I didn't think it was possible. But I did have an advocate inside the McCain operation.
You had a mole.
Yeah, I had a mole, yeah. Anyway, so we go forward.
I want to ask a couple of newsy questions. Senator Graham, in an interview this week with Bloomberg, President Trump said that he views the Mueller investigation as a, quote, illegal investigation. Do you think it's illegal?
No.
And does that make you worry that he's going to do something that...
No, listen, I lived through the Clinton era where Ken Starr was...
But Bill Clinton never called it illegal.
Well, oh my God, everybody around him said they were on him. They called him everything you could call him. This is the way the system works. No, Mueller will be allowed to do his job. So here's what I tell the public. I'm on Judiciary Committee. I might even be chairman next year. I'm going to look long and hard about the FBI abuse of the FISA warrant, about how the Department of Justice, the FBI, I think, just really were in the tank for Clinton and are out to get Trump early on. I don't say that about Mueller. Mueller is the only guy in the country that I think can exonerate the president. I keep telling him that. But we're going to allow Mueller to do his job, and hopefully sooner rather than later we'll know what he finds.
Senator Lieberman, on a different subject, President Trump unleashed attacks on Canada and other allies over the last few weeks. He said this in a quote, in a tweet, rather, quote, "We shouldn't have to buy our friends with bad trade deals and free military protection." He's praised adversaries like North Korea, like Russia. You were the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee. Would you say that the President of the United States is still the leader of the free world?
Yeah, he is the leader of the free world, but there are, because of the strength of America, I mean, people depend on us. That's what I tried to say yesterday about John.
Because of America, not necessarily because of this president?
Well, I think the president, because some of the things he said, has made some people anxious. Now, I must say, on the other hand, if you go to the Middle East today, the Arab world and Israel feel that they have a president they can trust, and they got worried that the previous administration was too focused on making a deal with Iran. In Asia, countries like Japan and South Korea feel pretty good about the president. But I do worry about comments like the ones you described toward Canada and Mexico, for instance. It's not that our relationships are perfect, but our strength really in the world is we don't want to do it all alone. And we need good allies. And Canada and Mexico are not only good allies, they're good sources of economic investment and trade with our country that creates millions of jobs here. So I just always hope that the president stops before his words.
If only you knew somebody who spoke to the president frequently.
Yeah, I keep trying to think of a name. Whoa, L-O-G, yeah.
Well, I think we'll get a NAFTA deal. I think Canada will be in it. He's pushing hard, and he should. You know, when it comes to lumber, we've always had a problem with Canada, but they're our allies. They're not our enemies.
I want to just ask you, before we run out of time, about very big hearings before your committee and judiciary this coming week. Brett Kavanaugh, his nomination to be a Supreme Court justice. Kavanaugh could be a decisive vote on Roe versus Wade. You are staunchly anti-abortion. You've supported many pieces of legislation to support that view, but you also respect precedent, legal precedent. So where do you stand? Do you hope Kavanaugh does overturn Roe v. Wade?
Well, here's what I hope he'll do. If there's a case before him that challenges Roe v. Wade, that he would listen to both sides of the story, apply a test to overturn precedent. Precedent is important, but it's not inviolate. I'm dying to see if he believes that Citizens versus United can be overturned. The bottom line here is there's a process to overturn a precedent, and I think he understands that process. He will apply it, and if it were up to me, states would make these decisions, not the Supreme Court, but it is a long-held precedent of the court. It will be challenged over time, and I hope he will give it a fair hearing, and I know he will.
I'm glad we got that in, because if Senator McCain heard you just talking about him the whole time, he would say, come on, guys, let's talk about the news of the day.
That's what I like. I can finally do something I want to do.
Something that I know you don't want to do. You're both leaving here to go to Annapolis to bury your friend John McCain. Just talk about the moment that you will have, a private moment. It will not be open for cameras.
Well, it's going to be hard because it's the last farewell. And, you know, I must say religiously, I always feel that when you bury somebody, their body is there, but their soul is gone to the next world. And I feel that way about John, but I'm also left with incredible memories, the trips that the three of us had, the things we learned together, the great times we had, the way in which I believe we represented America, the times we spent with the men and women of the American Armed Services. This was a treasure, and to have the friendship of John McCain and Lindsey Graham, as I was blessed to have had and continue, you know, it's just so, I say goodbye and my heart will be heavy. I'll shed a tear, and yet I'll thank God that I knew a man like John McCain so well.
Well, I'm going to try to focus on the fact that I'm going to admit to what I've lost. I cannot think of anything I've done in politics of consequence, any cause I've engaged in that John was not there, that I was not his wingman. As to Joe, you described your friend, my friend, so eloquently. It was the greatest tribute because you described the man I know that you and I both love. But I also want America to understand there's a lesson from this week. It's not about who came and who said what at the funeral. Military service is appreciated. Everybody loved the fact that John was willing to die for his country. If you're thinking about public service, here's the formula. Work hard, know what you're talking about, and people will listen to you. Pick a cause worthy of a good fight. Fight hard and be willing to forgive and ask for forgiveness. And above all else, when you make a mistake, admit it. Repeat, repeat till you die. And the next thing you know, the nation will hold you up.
Very well said, both of you. The two amigos. Joe Lieberman, Lindsey Graham, senators, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank
and I'm
you.
sorry for your loss.